Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. So thank you so much for being here today.
That's a pleasure.
And I would like to introduce Steve Jones. He just joined us today. He flew from London yesterday.
Yep, can't wait. No, Heathrow even.
Heathrow, indeed. So he flew in yesterday. And we are here today to get to know you and also find out more about your newly published book, Mapping Motivation for Engagement, which you covered with James Sale. We are very interested in this book, and we brought the book, so we're just going to show it to our audience. This is the book. This is a signed copy. It's brilliant. So my first question is to you, Steve. Who is Steve? Can you tell us?
Okay, so my background.
Right.
So I run a company called Skills for Business Training. So my background was health and fitness management. So in the UK, I worked with Fitness First PLC. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Not really.
But they started with one health club in Bournemouth. And I left when they were the largest in the world. We did that in 7 years. So we went through the AIM, the full listing. We were opening a club a week at 1.2 worldwide. So my exposure to fast growth businesses was through Fitness First.
Okay.
One club to the largest in the world in 7 years. So I left in about 2001 when they were too much of a corporate for me. And I kind of lost my way, lost my motivation.
Oh,
because
that's
actually
too bad.
I didn't fit. So I didn't realise why at the time. But anyway, I didn't do anything for 6 months. I walked up and down the seafront with my Jack Russell, my dog, thinking, well, what shall I do now? And I realised I could probably help a few companies grow. So I started to work with a few companies to help their growth. Had a bit of success. And then I was approached by an international coaching organisation called Sherlows, who were coming in from Australia, and they were specialists in SME growth, so small to medium-sized business growth. So I looked at all their methodologies, all their techniques, all their coaching tools, and it mapped perfectly the Fitness First journey. So I had this experience plus the toolkit. And I worked with them for about 3 years, looking at working with fast growth clients around how to grow a business, and I started to notice that actually with all the tools, techniques and methodologies there was something missing. And with a fast growth business, what the big challenge is usually we can't attract the talent quick enough to grow, or we can't keep our talent. So I started to look at leadership issues. So I left Sherlock and I started to look at leadership issues, motivational issues, and that's when I met James Sale. And came across Motivational Maps about 2010, I think. At the same time as I was talking with James around motivation, the government in the UK were looking at employee engagement. So the problem with employee engagement in the UK is only 1 in 3 people were engaged in their work. So 2/3 of the population disengaged. We were ranked 14th behind some third world countries in Europe on our motivational levels. And if we were all doing what we should be doing, we'd all be doing a 4-day working week. So that's the kind of stuff that was coming out of the government when they were looking at employee engagement. And I was invited onto the task force team to look at employee engagement in the UK called Engage for Success. I co-chaired it for 3 years, and I took all the findings because I found they were getting all these findings but they weren't doing much with it. So I built a course, and I went to my accountant who is a good friend of mine, and said, look, can I come and play with this stuff with your business for about a little while, see what happens? We turned his business around. He started winning awards, and then he put me into his top client, who they were 18.5 million turnover business, second generation business, so you had old school, new school. And what I was finding there was they were trying to do engagement but they didn't know how to do it. So we took the formula in. I did a year's program with them, and hey presto, they started winning awards. So I kind of knew I had something. Both case studies for that are in here.
In the book,
So that's kind of where I got to. So I kind of fell into it really because of what I was seeing and what I was hearing. And James has been, with Motivational Maps, has been an inspiration around that, because when I started with James in the early days, we used to work it out on paper. The map is now online.
Yeah.
And even the team map is online. We used to do it all by paper.
Wow.
Work it all out. Who does what, the scores, all that was worked out manually.
Yeah, I see. Now, because we are talking about motivational maps, and we just want to ensure that all the audience understand what motivational maps is.
Okay, yeah.
Could you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Okay, so motivational maps is a way of understanding where people's energy flows. So it's all about how motivated they are. Now, in workplace, where we look, you'll see that actually motivation isn't always high. Staff aren't always motivated. So motivation is the reason you come to work. Why do you come into work, and what are you looking for? And can the business harness that so you succeed and the business succeeds? And the motivational tool, there's about 38 questions. It cross-examines you on a lot of questions designed to tease out your top motivations, but rank your motivations from 1 to 9. There's 9 motivators. So it teases it out and it tells you what motivates you and what doesn't motivate you, and then you can work with that to make sure that your job or what you're doing in life fits with those motivations. And if it doesn't, what you need to do. So the instance of me leaving Fitness First was my motivations no longer were being fed by what the business had become.
I see. Yeah, this is quite a new tool in Hungary as well. We introduced the tool sometime around January this year. We have a few practitioners, and our team as well, Motivational Maps Hungary, is one of the groups that is doing motivational maps here.
Okay.
Now, what I would like to see with these motivational maps, you say it's a really good tool. Is it kind of universal? Is it for any culture? Anybody can do that? Is it anything? Yeah,
it's for every
specific?
business. Every business. Okay. So I look at a business, and it doesn't matter what you do, you still have to find clients, you still have to look after clients, and you still have to do the back office stuff. So it's any business, and you get a different collection of people and with different skill sets and different motivations that make a business tick. Okay, so the distinction between motivation and personality. So you'll have come across personality profiles like DISC, Insights, Myers-Briggs, Colourworks. They all measure personality, which is your behaviour at work. This tool, Motivational Map, looks at why you come to work and your energy, and is your energy getting fed?
I see, because these personality tools, they are quite fixed. So they don't really change?
Personality doesn't change. If you do it now and you do it in 10 years' time, the likelihood is it won't have changed.
What about motivational maps?
Absolutely dynamic and changeable, very situational. An example of that would be, look, if you were motivated by making lots of money, and the next day you won some money, lots of money, like the pools or the lottery, the next day you wouldn't be motivated.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? So you wouldn't be motivated by money. Equally, you might. I've seen it with youngsters. So when they live at home, they don't have any worries. And they have a lot of freedom, and they go and do what they want, and then they meet someone, they get married, they get a mortgage, and now it's all about security. So their drive is to make sure they have money and they're secure. So it changes all the time, and situations in business change. For instance, if you were motivated by a community of people and working in a community, and the business did what we call in the UK hot desking, which is I don't even know what hot desking is.
Hot desking, yeah, I've heard, yeah.
So basically, you don't have a desk, you just move, you just come in and work on a desk wherever it is. Well, you've just destroyed someone's world who likes community and people, and you've just delighted someone who likes freedom and autonomy. And you've done it, and you have no idea the impact of that decision, that strategic decision, on the motivations of the staff. And then you lose your talent because of it sometimes.
Indeed.
So it's understanding what makes people tick and making sure that when you're going through change, you are monitoring this, because you can lose talent overnight. I was an example of I had to leave Fitness First for the right reasons for me, but had they managed me differently, I'd still be there. Around my motivations. Yeah,
I see that you also mentioned that these motivators are quite dynamic, so they do change.
Yeah.
But do you find that there are some motivators they don't change in certain people? Is there any any extreme?
I wouldn't say yes to that. I'm sure there are people whose motivations don't change very much, but typically they do change because circumstances. And it's because it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow is when one need is met, another need comes in, so it's evolutionary. It's the same with a person. So what motivated you when you were a teenager may not motivate you now.
True.
You're a more mature adult. Okay, so it's going to be the same. Your motivations will shift and change as you evolve and you grow.
Okay, thank you. Now, this particular book, Mapping Motivation for Engagement, this is the third one in the series.
Yeah.
How is this book different? What is this book all about?
Okay, so the first one was about just motivation. The second one was about for coaching, how you coach motivation in a business. This one is more big picture. So every organisation that I work with wants to engage their staff more fully. To engage your staff more fully, it's a bigger picture. So if you take the findings of the government task force team that I discovered, there was 4 key things. So you need a clear strategic narrative, which is a story about where you've been, where you are, where you're going. So that's covered in the book. How do you create that story? Then you need engaging managers. So there's lots of managers who have a title but don't manage properly because they've never been taught to manage properly. So that's leadership and management issues you need to address so people can coach and stretch and manage people properly. Then you have employee voice. So employee voice is, well, Richard Branson would say he doesn't employ people so he can tell them what to do. He employs people so they can tell him what to do. So having a listening culture in your organisation, making sure that you involve people early in decisions, making sure you listen to their ideas is the hardest thing for businesses, but it's the best thing they can do because they're going to get the best ideas. So do you have a listening culture? And finally, do you have a set of values? And if you have a set of values, do you live and breathe those values on a day-to-day basis? Do you reward them, and are there consequences, or are they just on the wall and no one can tell you what they are? Okay.
I see. So I see this is really about the
so it's a bigger picture, and motivation underpins it all, because you want people to buy into a strategic narrative, a story. So the people you recruit into the organisation should buy into the story. So that's important, and their motivation should fit the story. When you're leading and managing people, the biggest thing in the world is trying to work out what motivates people, because if you can do that, you can reward them properly. So a manager needs to understand what makes people tick and how do we manage that. Also, where conflicts of motivations occur and what to do about that, and how to put teams together. So the book is about that. If you look at employee voice, well, if you understand people's motivations, you'll understand actually that person's creative and they could innovate and they could come up with lots of ideas which we could listen to and harness. So you've got to have a listening culture, so that's motivation too. And the values, basically values, if you look at what motivation is and you look at Simon Sinek's Start With Why do you do what you do, your values should match the organisation's values. So your motivational values should match the values of the organisation.
So motivation is really about the how. If you talk about
that's the why. It's the why. The why.
The why.
So so it's about the why. So why do we do what we do? Why does this business exist? And that's a business, but a person. What motivates me? Why do I do what I do? You know.
It sounds really good. What I really like about motivational maps that it's feelings. It's really the feelings,
it's
and you can. It's data. You can put feelings into data, which is really good news for those people who like numbers.
People who like numbers are going to love it because they can measure it. Yeah.
Indeed, so it's nicely measurable. So in this way, since this is about engagement, is also engagement then measurable?
Yep, it's all measurable. I'll tell you why it's measurable, because when you do the motivational map, you are asked to score yourself as to how much that motivation is getting fed currently in your role, so then we can produce a percentage score of how motivated someone is. Now, if it's a low, it doesn't matter if it's a low or high score, it's just information at this stage. So it's what you do with that information. So let's say you are very creative, but you're not allowed to be creative because there's too much work to do and you've got to get on with what we told you to do, and there's no creativity. We're not going to get the best out of you. So we have to create an environment where you can thrive and innovate and motivate, and innovate and come up with ideas, because that's going to make you tick and it's going to benefit the business. So, and then we can go, right, now we've done that. You were 3 out of 10 before. Now we've created the opportunity for you to be more creative. What are you scoring it now? And it'll be more like a 10. So now all of a sudden we're tapping into your innate ability and your talent because you want to. You're not being pushed into it.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to also reading the book.
Yeah.
Who would you say this book is for?
Well, it's two audiences really. You could give this to an HR person. You can give it to a strategic person in an organisation, for them to read it, understand it, and maybe contact someone like you to help them run it. It's also for coaches. It's for coaches so that if they're trying to increase their attractiveness to an audience, especially a corporate audience or an SME audience, then you've got something really tangible to go in and deliver. And there's lots of really good tools and techniques in the first book and this book that will really keep you in a business for a long time doing valuable work. So it's really aimed at coaches, I'd say, firstly, the Motivational Maps community particularly, but the wider thing is it's actually applicable to business, and I find training in-house trainers so they can run it themselves one of the avenues that's been very fruitful for me.
I see. And so you are a motivational maps practitioner.
Yeah.
And I also heard that you are a liberating leadership practitioner as well. Is there a connection?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is about engagement, it's a bigger picture than leadership, it's a bigger picture than motivation, but the two dovetail. So if I have a questionnaire, I have 8 questions I ask an organisation, I get them to score them from 1 to 10. And if I just take you through that, you'll understand the connection. So the first thing I ask the business is, do you have a story? Doesn't matter if you tell it, but does this business have a story? So of where you've been, where you are, where you're going. Second question, and I get them to score it out of 10. So 10 being yes and 1 being no, we don't have it.
Yeah.
The second question I ask them is, do you have a vision for your organisation? Do you have a 3-year vision? Doesn't matter if it's communicated, do you have a 3-year vision? So I get them to score that from 1 to 10. And then the third question is, do you tell your story? And do people know your vision? Do you communicate it throughout your whole organisation? Does the cleaner know it? Does every member of staff know it? Is it in your induction programme? Is it on your website? Do your customers know it? Okay, because you have to communicate it.
Yeah.
And then I ask them, do they have engaging managers, or do they have managers just with a title? So score that from 1 to 10. And then we look at, do those managers coach, stretch and motivate people on a day-to-day basis? Get them to score that from 1 to 10. And then I ask them about the ability to listen to their staff. So do they have this listening culture? Do they get ideas? Do people feel involved early enough in process? And then I ask them whether they have a set of values. And then I ask them whether they live and breathe those values. And if you know the wheel of life, I create a wheel of engagement. And we score it all. And then we get them to join the dots up when they realise they've got a wonky wheel. Now, the connection between liberating leadership and motivation is you have to have a story, but you have to have engaging managers. Therefore, you need all the leadership stuff that comes from liberating leadership. And then you need to have the motivation to run appraisal processes, listen to your staff, get the best out of your staff. So the two dovetail nicely to build actually what I call the leadership element and the motivational element within the organisation.
I see. So liberating leadership, is it also a tool like motivational maps?
Yeah, well, liberating leadership is it's a 3-day course, I believe. Now you've probably just done it more recently than I have. But for me, liberating leadership is fantastic because it has diagnostic tools, and those diagnostic tools are the mindset of a leader. So you can think about, are you high challenge, high support? If you're too challenging, you cause stress. If you're too supportive, everybody gets away with murder in your business. So how do you strike that balance between high challenge, high support? It's got a fantastic tool for your leadership style and how to flex your leadership style. So when someone joins your organisation, yes, you have to tell them, but after 3 months, they should know how to do it. Then you should be moving to the coaching of them for the next 3 months, let's say. And then you should move to mentoring them for the next 3 months, and then you should be delegating. And when you do the questionnaire, you'll find you have a default style, and it might be coaching, and that's only going to work in someone's journey at a certain point. So you're not flexing your style enough to get the best out of people and help them. So it's a fantastic tool for getting people to move through the stages of growth and personal growth within your business, and for a leader to actually know what to do in certain situations. And they're good. Liberation leadership is good because those two tools are reflective tools. So you go back, look at your answers, think about how you might do things differently, and it gives you a framework to actually gives you a chance to lead people properly.
I see. Well, one of our team members is actually a liberating leadership practitioner.
Yeah.
She's the only one in Hungary.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So we are trying to build another platform here as well.
Well, it's a brilliant tool. I like that the two dovetail perfectly.
Yeah, that's what we thought. I mean, our vision of our team is that we are trying to connect different tools together. So the team is the team members there are some practitioners who are dealing with behavior, so more disc, Myers-Briggs. Then we have coaches, we have trainers, we have people who are consultants and mentors. So we have a very versatile team.
Mixed range of people. Well, I think you need all those skills to get a business to where you need to get it to.
But we connect with motivational maps.
Yes.
So that's our big connection, and that can be used really everywhere. Indeed. We have talked about engagement, and engagement is as a buzzword nowadays. Why is it so important now? Engagement.
Right, well, my opinion on this may be different to other people's, but if you look at any organisation now, you can copy anything they do, and you can be exactly the same as them. The only differentiator these days are your people. And it's more and more important to get the right people, because they will create the intellectual property within your organisation. And if you don't have talented people, it's not going to happen. And you're going to be the same as anybody else. So it's your people and your service levels and the quality of your people that's going to differentiate you. That's my opinion on why you should have it. Okay. Now the challenge you have is that a lot of business owners still don't see that. They just look at the bottom line. And the challenge with that is that actually it's short-sightedness. Because actually one of the challenges I face and coaches face generally is, how do you sell this into the people, the money people who just see bottom line. So I teach people how to do that. So one of the things I would say about the challenge around moving away from people thinking it's fluffy to being serious is actually to challenge the bean counters, or the money people, as I call them bean counters, as to the value of this. So the way that I do that is I get a cup, basically, and I say, imagine that's an employee and that's their full capacity for the day, and I want you to think about the most disengaged person you've ever come across, the most demotivated member of staff. How much time do they spend relaxing on your day, in your time, in your business? What do you reckon? What would you say? A disengaged person, how much time would they spend relaxing?
Relaxing, like doing nothing?
Yeah.
Disengaged person, 70%.
70%. So it is a bit of a trick question, because now you've finished relaxing, now you go to your desk and you consciously avoid work.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much time now?
Well, then it's 100% then.
Yes, 100%. So now they've finished relaxing, finished avoiding work, and that's 100%.
Yeah.
And now what they do when they do decide to do something, it adds no value. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're at minus 150. I've had this before. Okay. So that's what happens when you get disengaged people in your business. Okay. They typically don't contribute anything. The second thing around that is, if you look at the stats from the UK, 1 in 3 people going to work are engaged, so 2/3 of your population disengaged. So how many of those people are sitting in your organisation, and you don't know at the moment because you're not measuring it, and you look at that also and you go, okay, so we now got a bit of a problem. So the next question for the person who looks after the money is actually, what's your single most expensive item after your capital investment? It's your staff. And you're not doing anything to measure this stuff at all. So technically, as a person who's in charge of finance, you're failing, because you're not managing the second single most expensive item, your return on investment of your staff. You're not even looking at it or measuring it. And we know 2/3 of the population aren't engaged. So it's, you're not doing your job. And I need to get their attention around this, because
I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
I'm sure this gets attention.
So it's not some fluffy stuff. If you get this right, it really works. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Glassdoor. You're familiar with Glassdoor?
Yes.
So that's where employees will put their comments around your business, whether you like it or not, on an open forum. And when someone's looking to choose where they work, they go and look at Glassdoor, and they see the companies that got high ratings. What they've managed to look at now is those companies with high ratings outperforming the FTSE and the AIM by a country mile. So if you've got great employees, the profitability is huge. Okay, so the money men are missing a trick by just looking at bottom line.
Have you come across a person who you introduced motivational maps to, and just wasn't interested? Said, this is just another tool.
Yeah, I've had that on occasions. So, where they want to pay lip service to it and do it. And then they have an aha moment when we save a member of their staff, from a talented member, from leaving, and then they start to see. So I did it with a company recently, and we identified 3 staff members that would leave, definitely going to leave. And I said to them, "Do you want them to leave?" No. So I said, "There's their motivational maps. Go around and talk to them about why they scored it that way." And he came back. He said, "Yeah, I see the value of this now, because I've now saved 3 talented people." Okay.
So, young leaders, not leaders, anybody in Hungary, if you want to be mapped, do contact us via Motivational Maps Hungary, www.motivationalmaps.hu.